What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Joined today with me is a very special guest. Listen, I was trying to figure out our relationship before we hit record and how it started, and she had to remind me where we met each other and from. But I don't like to introduce people because I'll botch it up. So I'll let you introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about who you are.
Okay. My name is Latrenda George, and I am an author, a coach, also a community advocate. Currently, I do a lot of work in the communities here in Atlanta, Georgia area, really helping our teens stay safe and drug-free and make best decisions concerning their body and their minds. So it's been a pleasure to do that. I'm an author of Download Your Truth, 4 Steps to Living Within. And also I coach people, really mentoring a lot of college students right now, as this is a very challenging time, a different time to be in school, the pressures they already were facing, and then I kind of help them to make decisions as they navigate through this time and season in their lives.
That's big. That's big. That's a lot, especially with the college. I know the times that we're in is unprecedented times, and um, I'm just happy to be in a position where I can talk about mental health and talk about these certain issues that we're going on, because I feel like we're about to have like a surge of it, especially with the fall season coming up. You talked
Yeah.
about downloading your truth. Like, what's that about? What's been the response to the college kids after reading it?
Well, my book is my life story. Download Your Truth is my story of how I went through the process of being a young child, very introverted, did not know I was an introvert, right? But I was able to be an extrovert in the classroom. But really, I had all these thoughts going on, behind the scenes. And so my life took a lot of different turns because I was not confident in all these, my strong instinct or intuition concerning things, and just wanted to fit in and be all what my parents want me to be, and really not listen to that inner light, that inner voice from the inside. So my life went through a lot of different turns, and I explained that in the book, that your life can go through all that, but once you come back to yourself, right? It's no roadmap for our parents. It's no roadmap for us as a child, right? So it's all this trial and error going on based on their experiences and how we're affected from their experiences and the labels they put on us. But then at some point, we have to find and identify and define our own selves. So in that book, I really explain how I went from a child searching for this fairy godmother that was going to come and tell me how to put all this thing to make sense of all these creative things, and how my mind, I'm just dreaming big, but my reality, my parents like, oh no, you just need to go do this, right? Because this is what you're good at. And I think one of the biggest challenges is, like, we all have different strengths. And as a child, one kid is really athletic, one's this, but it's so much more to them than that, right? It's that other part of what they need to discover, those other talents that's in them. So it's okay for us to foster those talents that come out, but we need to sometimes dig deeper and see what's all there, like all the other gold nuggets that can either help advance that career if it's athletics, or a great artist or anything like that. It's a way to find that balance and grounding in who you are. If we could just really push that at a younger age, our children, our youth could be really more successful, because when they go into adverse situations, they know who they are, right? They don't let the situation define who they are.
Wow, and that's big because I think a lot of the times we turn 18 and it's like, all right, you're an adult, or you turn 21 and you're an adult. And that pressure, I know for me, got to me because of, it's like, wait, I'm not a kid. Like, all of that stuff just go out the window just like that. And you haven't really found the time to like grow into yourself, if that makes sense. And so what are some of the things that you've seen, responses from people that have read the book? Like, what are some of the commonalities of people who haven't gone within themselves yet?
Well, what I know is, like, one of the persons that bought the book, this gentleman bought the book, he read it and then he gave it to his daughter. His daughter had just finished college. She had not found a job. So she worked in jobs, not in her major. She's working at a retail store. She was feeling down and out. But when she read my book, it caused her to begin journaling, really thinking about what she wanted, and realized that she was putting herself in her own limitations because she thought that that route was supposed to go a certain way once you graduate from college, right? Once you get that degree, you think, I'm about to get this job, I'm about to get my apartment, life is going to be great, because they don't tell you the process to that. She'll say, okay, let's find a job in the career field. You may not be that manager stepping out of college, but if you could find a career that's in that field where you can go in and learn all you can and be that sponge to take the next step, right? And so it helped redirect her, because her friends, and she shared to her friends, because a lot of them were going through the same things, because you, like you said, you get out of high school, you're 18, or you go to college and you just think things is going to work out because you got this degree, because basically people that told you go to college and then you're good, right? And that's not it. I mean, that's not realistic to really how it works, right? It has to be things that you need to expose yourself through, even through college, to prepare yourself for that next route. There's always preparation that has to come before you give it an assignment.
Man, that's big. So my question, to piggyback off the one I just asked,
Yeah.
this is a mental health platform, and so I would be remiss not to ask. Sometimes it's hard to go within yourself. It could be depressing because you start to learn some things you got to unpack about some things about your past and who you are, or who your parents are or were, or whatever that those painful points may be. Um, can you talk about the toughness that takes, because it's not easy going in within yourself and
It's
really
not.
downloading your truth and accepting it, because a truth can exist without you accepting
Oh, wow. That's big right there.
it.
And that's why I talk about my parents' relationship, right? And um, my parents' relationship, my father was violent against my mother. It's like my mother had this light, but she didn't really believe in her light. She was trying to find her light through a man, right? And then my dad was a very creative entrepreneur man, but he had been hurt by his parents, right? And so it was all these different dynamics. It's like, and I'm sitting there wondering, okay, he don't see the queen in her, she don't see the king in him, truly, right? Because it was things, and I'm young picking up on this. I always been able to pick up on people's energy. So it's like my mom always say, like, you're like an old soul here, right? So I'm watching this dynamic, and that's like when I grew up and I watched my mother go through the abuse with my father, it made me say, okay, I'm never going to date a man who's abusive. Like, that was like, if I even think his anger gets to that point, I left. So I caused a lot of abandonment issues in men, because I'm like, oh, if I just see you in that way, just because of my childhood. And so I had
Right.
to heal that, just to know that, everyone deals with their anger in a different way, and they express it a different way. That doesn't mean that person's going to reach out and hit you, but I just been, it had me to be very on guard, right? So some relationships could have worked out, but because I saw that little bit, a glimpse of some small red flag, I never tracked a big red flag. It was more of a smaller red flag, but I'm
Mm,
like, okay, I don't think this is gonna work, or I'm just not answering this call anymore.
mm.
um,
Makes
but
sense.
so that was me acting out on things that was not even part of my story, my personal story. I mean, it was my story from growing up in the household I grew up in, but it was nothing I had experienced as being directed towards me. But so at a lot of times, you know, that situation could have, worked out two different ways. Some women, in that situation, they end up attracting that type of love in their life because they define love may include that, right? Um, but it made me abandon any situation that I thought may go that way. So one of the things that's important when you think about mental health is sometimes me to heal that pain, to say that, okay, I grew up in a household where domestic violence was something that I was exposed to. And because I was exposed to that, I tend to behave a certain way in relationships when it comes to that issue. But I had to heal that. I had to heal what went on with my parents. I had to heal how me as a child, how my brain said this is what was going on, my emotions, my feelings. And then you be embarrassed. You don't want your friends to know that your mom and dad are, fighting or arguing when you got, a nice parents, your friends' parents might be really nice and loving towards each other across the street. You got this whole other issue you have to deal with. Um, and so it's a lot. It's a lot. That's why at a certain age, I'm not saying, when you're younger, it's kind of hard to really figure out all what's going on. It's don't beat yourself up when you find yourself in situations, but it's always a way to heal, get help, to find out a way to be better, as long as you have that desire to move to the next level.
No, and that's so true. And I think, and not even think, I know from my personal journey that I'm not nowhere near the same person I was when I was at 18. But I spent a lot of my 20s unpacking and learning what life
Hmm.
was and learning and healing, like you said. I had to go through some hurt before I got through that healing, because it's like, it's almost like Superman is not Superman, or Wonder Woman is not Wonder Woman, and what you thought was Superman in yourself is not Superman. It's like, oh, this is how life is really like going about, and this is what happened, and understanding stories. One of the things that I've been focused on as of now, not because of personal experience, but more so because of, like, I like to not attack but unravel some of these different things, especially within the Black community, is domestic violence. And so
Hmm.
I don't even know how to phrase the question, but more so, you talked about your dad's experience, your dad and mom experience, and then you seeing it within certain people. In general, what is your viewpoint, perspective, commentary on like domestic violence in the Black community?
Um, I think domestic violence is still something where people don't really want to talk about it. Um, when two people participate in domestic violence, of course, to me, it's two people who are not healed from something, and they're using that as a way to express their frustrations. But when I think about how the Black community embrace it, is some people um, put a shame on it. They really do. If they belittle people who go through that. Some people don't understand it. Some people think it's just easier. Oh, why don't you just leave? It's always something more to it. Um, Leaving may be part of the result, or it may be getting help, getting therapy, finding out what is the next course of action concerning it. Um, I think that we have to really determine as a community that all the issues that go in with our community are valid. All of them need healing. All of them need to be addressed. And we need to make sure that we as a community are working together to address the issue. It's not my neighbor next door. I know, the couple they're fighting is okay. Do you know where that person can get help? If you just hand them a card one day, you put it on their windshield, you never know how that one gesture can help someone get the help they need. Because people are not just bad people, right? We it's some experiences. There's a story behind the action.
No, and I believe that 100%. So I want you to put your coaching hat on right now. Say
Okay.
you have a Black male client who's in a domestic violence situation, where he wants to uh not put his hands on his lady, or his partner, whoever it may be, but he just can't control his anger. What would you coach them and say? What advice, what perspective, what techniques would you give them?
But first, I want to talk about him. I want to walk through what is going on when he gets to that point where he wants to do that. And then I want to take it, once he gives me that, I want to go even further to when he was a child, how did he deal with anger? Right? Because to me, and I've raised two boys, I got two young boys. One of my sons very more aggressive than the other. right? My one son, he's more the artist. He get angry and frustrated. He want to go somewhere and draw and color, right? That's his downtime. My other son, he may want to throw something. He want to go out there, throw that basketball, hit that rim hard, so he's more aggressive. But to me, because men are more of an aggressive nature, usually, it's some women that's the way, but usually you I would coach him to find out more positive ways to deal with anger. But let's find the root of the anger. What is the real frustration? Because it's not just that incident that happened. It's either things been piled up. It may be something going on at work. Maybe going on because of lack of work. It may be going on because nothing seems to go on right. And then you coming out like me like this, and I'm not feeling that today. Right? And it's then, making sure you have healthy ways in your relationship that before you even get to the point that when you tell a person, okay, right now, I can't finish this conversation because I need to think or clear my mind. So it's all the ways of finding out what's the root of the issue. How can we incorporate positive ways to deal with the issue? Let's practice that. Let's do some dialogue. But it's so much unpacking. Like you said, the unpacking is always the key to even give him the right techniques where he could choose what works best for him. Because I can give him some examples, but as long as we can open his mind that there are different possibilities that he can put in practice, but the one that works for him, because each person is different, right? One guy can go jog around the corner and come back, hey, baby, I'm sorry about that. I got a little beside myself. This happened at work today. Okay, now we can finish this conversation. And to me, it's having that partner. It's like with the best advice, it's the person who wants to do the actual violence. And then that person on the other side has a lot to do with that too, right? Because if he's telling you, I can't talk right now, and you keep pushing him and go make him try to control him to talk to you about it right now, where you're pushing the situation in the direction that it doesn't need not to go. So when it comes to domestic violence, I think that's why it's important for the person to get the counseling and the therapy, but also for the counterpart to get the therapy and the counseling too.
That was going to be my follow-up question. On the opposite end of it, as a coach, what would you tell somebody who's, and I don't want to make it gender bias of whether it's women or men, but a person that's in the relationship that's getting abused, they don't want to leave the relationship, they want to be with the person, but they just don't know what to do. What coaching advice would you give them?
Because like we're all different. We all communicate differently. We all from different backgrounds. And that's one of the things, like when you're even in a relationship, getting to becoming committed to one another, or you're just, I'm seeing you, you're seeing me. It really matters to understand, okay, let's define our communication style, define what we need in our relationships. If you're the person experiencing and receiving the violence, okay, you love this person, you want to be with this person. Let's talk about you. Beside the action of him, you have this, him or her, you have this relationship with this person. Let's play out what happened. Okay, let's see where you decided to do whatever behavior or say everything you said. Did you do that to manipulate that person, to push them to that point? Because a lot of times we can be in a discussion with someone, and before we get to the argument, we'll just sneak something in because we know that's going to hit that person button.
I've been there before.
Right? And we all have done this. No one can say, I've never done that, right? And it's like, okay, if I know that's going to cause this with the person I love, I need to honor them and not do that to them. But then I need to learn how to communicate effectively so I don't have to manipulate the situation. I don't have to throw those daggers to get the result that I'm looking for, right? Because you want that person to be their truth. You shouldn't have to push their buttons to get them to respond a certain way. Let them be who they are and you be who you are. And then you guys come together in a way that's good for the both of you. But I think we try to control individuals to do what we want them to do when we want them to do it.
Nah, and I think that's one of the things that the pandemic has caused. I don't know the numbers offhand, but they said
Yes.
domestic violence rates are up. Like a lot of things being at home, and it just it's just bad all around basically. And so I wanted to shed light on that because especially with you being a woman and a black woman at that, just hearing that perspective and putting that voice out there, I think is always necessary to have, because that's what the biggest wave I'm on right now is how different ways to support women and provide women voices and support, and whatever I can do on my end,
Yeah.
because I feel like when it's time for men to be supported, that women are there, but when it's time for women to be supported, men are there, but they not as committed as women in certain situations.
That's very true. you know, yeah, I work with like I said, a lot of nonprofits. Domestic violence is up, child abuse is up like crazy.
Mm,
And that hurts my heart. I work, really close with a child abuse association, and the numbers since COVID, and these kids don't have a voice. They don't get to go out of school, so they're at home constantly getting abused.
mm,
Um, and it's hard for agencies. It was hard for, protective services to do what they do to find out if something going on because of COVID. So it's just so much going on. But when it comes to domestic violence and just really empowering the women to speak up, so many factors, right? Some people have lost their jobs, so if it was already abuse in the home, and then now somebody did lost their job or things are not and then they, quarantine, can't get out. I think for women who are sitting in that situation, and that's a black woman, we sometimes people feel that we deserve it, we mouthy, we this way, and so a lot of times you can go to places to get help and they just act like you're just another number, you're just another person going through something of that, background as an African American. But I think it's very important that women, there's so many ways for communication with the internet, phones, it's so many ways you can reach out for help without even anyone knowing. There's so many hotlines out there. There's so many agencies and resources because it's those individuals who are involved in it, advocating and helping. They're ready because they know it's real. And many of those people that work in those agencies, they went through it themselves,
mm,
right? They've been through it, and they can really be a voice in those situations to help you get where you need to be. But it's hard. It's really hard. I'm not going to say it's an easy situation to get out of, but you have to decide when you decide, because sometimes you can help a person that's in that situation and they just run back to the situation. Like you get them out. It's really, I don't care if it's abuse, addiction, anything like that, that you have to decide enough is enough. Like
mm.
you really have to get to that point where you want to change for yourself.
No, that's big, and that's one of the things I had to learn too, because I have siblings and family members, and it was like, well, if you're gonna go back to this individual, what can I do? Like, even if it's just screaming and yelling at each other, like that's something that you have to get tired of on your own for me to be supportive on that. And one question before I have like two or three more questions. But one thing I thought about while you were talking was the fact that you do have two sons, because I have two sons.
Hmm.
What's the conversation around police brutality and interacting with the cops? How are you feeling as a mother? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when everything happened, me and my oldest son and the youngest son, but the oldest son at first wanted to have a conversation. We talked about it. His dad ended up talking to him about it as well. How did he think about it? And he said, he thought it was wrong. And he was like, but mom, I know that there are good cops and bad cops because, as him going to school, cops have came for career day. He knows students who got parents that's police officers. And he said, they're not like that, but I wanted to let him know, it's the stereotype that people put black men in, and that you always have to know who you are. And there are certain things you do. It's important to want to help the community. I say, you're going to be black all your life. And this is something that Blacks do go through. We are judged just based on our color skin. And so, but you have to know, don't ever let that stop you, and it's important to be an advocate for the community. And so those are one of the things we did. So it's so funny. I saw him and his friends talking about it. There's a bunch of 9-year-old, 10, 11, 12-year-olds having a conversation about, oh, that was messed up. And then they start talking about things they could do in the neighborhood. Well, what do you think we could do to support his daughter? They wanted to make something, to do something. So I like that. There you got a bunch of soon-to-be young Black men, right? Getting together as kids saying, how can we make a difference? But I think it's very important to let the kids know their history, know where they came from. That's why I'm so big on teaching them Black history and who invented what, how people pressed through it, made it through times that were way more difficult than this, and even their own family history with that.
Yeah, it was a conversation that I recorded it on the podcast. So I did an episode with my son and talked about like the different conversations around police brutality and interactions with the police. But I felt bad because he's 8. I've kind of created a bubble where he doesn't have those type of interactions. So he's kind of in a world of his own, and he doesn't even like know any of these things are going on. Now, once he's been aware of it, it's like, oh my God, like, and he's like shocked and appalled. And so I didn't even know it was time to have the conversation because you just forget. I've been telling a lot of these when I've been doing these speaking engagements that I've kind of looked at race as a disability, almost like if you had a missing limb or like a big mole on your face or something where you were born with that defect, and not even calling it defect because that sounds offensive. You were born with something that other people will make fun of you for or not treat you right for. And so because I looked at race in that light, I kind of forgot that it existed at a point. It's like, no, they're racist. That's just how the world is. Or no, the cops are going to pull you over. That's just how the world is. And it's like, no, these things are wrong. Like, y'all have to keep talking about these things being wrong. And so I've contributed to the fact of that you let people get away with certain things that they weren't supposed to get away with.
That's interesting because, I live in the outskirts of Atlanta, in a small town. And a friend of mine had just made that type of comment you made. She's like, well, the downtown, they just like that, they're just racist, right? And to me, it's like, I went to a predominantly, white college, University of Michigan, predominantly white, it was one of those things that I was always aware of it, but then again, always trying to find a way to connect with my community, to voice it, to write about it, or to do something to say that's not right, or have dialogue. I've had a lot of dialogue in my college years, and then also in my professional career with people who are white about the issue of race. And to me, a lot of them I had the conversation with, it was just something they were taught, from their grandparents or parents. And I was like, I would ask them, has a Black person ever did anything to you? No. Most of them will tell me no. So why do you feel so uncomfortable? Why? Well, Black people like this. I said, okay, what Black person, Black people, are violent. Black people are this, they're angry. This. What Black person did something violent towards you? I have never had one person tell me that I have met in my path have said this happened to me. Not saying if things doesn't happen, between different racial groups, but I'm just saying in my conversation, when I know someone like that and we have a, a very honest dialogue, right? It was nothing there. It was just their preference because of something they taught they're supposed to prefer.
And that was one of the reason why I said I did my son a disservice, because if their family is teaching them this, or the people around them or their community is teaching them this, then my son is going to go in there oblivious to anything that's going on and could get taken advantage of in any type of way. You know what I mean? And so it was an awakening moment for me because I didn't even realize that how I was I don't want to say enabling them, but just not preparing them in the right way.
Yeah. I think, it's so true. One thing that I experienced as a child, I'm being brown skinned more so, and my sister was very fair skinned.
Mm,
And so she would get treated one way because she was lighter within the Black community, and I'll get treated another way because I'm darker complected.
mm-hmm.
So it's so many different things that we have to not only the race between Black and white, but then we have the also between the light and dark within our own community. And then how the whites perceive the lighter white, the lighter Blacks compared to the darker Blacks.
No, it's so true.
It goes deep,
Mm-hmm.
on so many levels.
Well, I don't want to keep you long, so I got one more question, then maybe a follow up, but it'll be going after that. You said something before we got on air, and that this moment of the coronavirus and has taught you, or you've been not awakening, but you've been realizing about it's good, it's bad, but it's a lot of good within it. Could you talk more about it?
You know, the bad is because we couldn't do life for me as usual, right? But at the same time, it's been a great time to really get focused on what matters most. A lot of people, I know I lost a lot of people I went to high school with back in my hometown in Michigan to coronavirus. So it made you realize even more how precious life is and how every day counts, and that something can come into the world that could just wipe us out. It could really do danger. But in that, it was a great time to really get focused on family, get clear focus with your career goals, your business goals, your vision for your life. One of the blessings to me was the stillness, being able to receive and expand your knowledge within stillness, really hearing from within, doing things around your home that you've been wanting to do, making time to really say, okay, for me, it was like, okay, if this is COVID, can come in and do this in a moment's notice, our whole lives change, right? Corporations change. They say you could never do your work from home. Now you can work from home. So many things change. It was a danger to go to the grocery store, toilet paper shortages, all these different things. It really taught you what's really important in life and how can I make the greatest impact by being still and listening of what the world really needs now. What do I really need to give? And if these going to be some challenging times, I need to do the things that matter most to me. I need to focus on my health, my family, and give it my best with what the gifts and skills and talents I have. So to me, it's been a very transformative. You had a great time to transform at this time. It's been a great time to really go deep into yourself and just it's been rich with that. I just think the stillness has been so rich, Reg. It's been rich.
Nah, it's been great. In that sense of honestly, and this is the first time I've admitted it out loud. 2020 has been a good year for my business and my family. In the sense, again, we lost a few loved ones, so I'm not trying to disregard that. But I couldn't enjoy some of the successes because of the cloudness of COVID and things like that. But if I was to separate the painful deaths that people have experienced around me, it has been a good year, but it's almost you can't even celebrate it or enjoy it because of just like presidency and COVID and police brutality and all these different things going on. It's like, man, am I harmful for celebrating these type of wins? You know what I mean? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way because actually I was telling a friend like 2020, outside of everything else that's happened, like we said, the deaths and everything that's happened and the people we've lost this year as a community, personally, like you said, the police brutality, all those different things. But for me as a person to bring light to the world, it's been a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this time it's been a molding time, a time of preparation to prepare us for what's next, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things that happen. And I think that's when you really tell how strong you are, right? You really tell, because when things get totally crazy and you could still thrive in that season, that says you're grounded and you know who you are and you have downloaded your truth and you walking in it no matter if the fall, the sky fall or not. I'm grounded, like, and so it's been an ease, but sometimes the world needs to slow down. I think we needed to slow down, even though all the stuff that happened was totally not good. I would not wish that on anyone. We needed to slow down. Our souls needed us to slow down. The nature needed us to slow down like this. Like, I see more animals out. I got rabbits in my yard. I got all kind of coyote the other day. I got all these different things going on, but now they can do their thing. Like, the world needed us to slow down. We were getting too far away what matters most.
Nah, and I agree with that 100%. You actually almost got into my last and final question. And I think you did, so you probably can tie the two together. What is a truth that we need to download about mental health?
Mental health is everything. Without your mental health, your state of your mental health affects everything. It affects all your relationships, not only with people, with money, with your career. It's you have to take time for your mental health. You have to take time to unplug yourself. And that's what COVID did. It gave us a time to unplug, regroup, heal, and focus. Mental health to me is everything. Your mental health and your physical health is everything. You got those two together, it's nowhere you can't go.
Everything else flows from the mental health. Like like everybody, once people get that, like once your mind is right, everything else flows a lot better.
Yeah, because your mental health has to be right for your physical health to be right, right?
Mhm.
It's different. A person get hurt and say, "Oh, this is the end for me." Than a person get hurt and say, "No, I'm gonna get through this." Like, your mindset determines your next step.
Oh, she preaching now.
Right?
On that note, I'm gonna put the link to everything that she has going on in the description. Follow her, subscribe. What's going on with the podcast? Where are we at?
I need to bring that back. I've been downloading so much. I'm gonna be honest. I've been downloading so much and getting so many hits. I mean, this introvert has been really introverted, right? And so even me stepping here on your podcast, Reg, and I thank you so much for the invitation. It's like, let me get back out there. But I've got a lot of downloads, got a lot of things sitting in this belly. So I'm start pouring it out again. I'm gonna get Awakened Legend, keep going.
No, I'm the same way. I haven't done too many interviews as well. I wanted to say the podcast today, but I didn't know if you were doing it, if you were promoting it, or ever.
Yeah. This guy wants to, do some things with me out in LA. He had followed me on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, I got to get back. But, I'm telling you, it's like, I know that God has me in this place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm receiving so much.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare. I know it's preparation, but it's just good time. I've been enjoying it. I hate to say it, but I've been enjoying this time because, again, because so much going on. But this year, it's been like one of my best years personally, as in me spending time with me. I have learned so much about myself since COVID. I've been working on this, but the insight has came to a whole nother level. A whole nother level where I know I could take leaps now, but I feel like it's still a little more time. It's a more download. I got an email, Alicia Keys, the singer. She has this fan thing, and she sent out an email about what she's been going through. And she said she's been spending so much time just her and her journal. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing this. People doing this. But And I was like, how she worded, I was like, that's it. Like, it's just like, for us, as like you yourself and other people, it's a season where we all had to be pulled away like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even though the talks, because mental health right now, oh my God, is so important right now. Georgia have a Operation Parent thing that I listen to, where they discuss like ways that parents can help their children as they're going through these phases, because you know a lot of seniors couldn't do, you know, so much going on in kids. This life, this totally is different for us, and it's totally different for them. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's all these things that people talk about people's mental health, and some people like they really don't know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
They're totally lost.
Yeah, and it is new territory, new water for all of us. And like you said, if you keep diving in on you and holding you accountable and holding you to your, like, learning more about you, like you said, you learn more about yourself during. They said the skillful sailors aren't made when it's the seas are like smooth and everybody can just, you know, everybody can ride out. It's when them rocky waters hit, them when you got to navigate something, it's like that's where you really get to see what you made of.
That's it. That, oh yeah, that, and that's so true. That's so true. It's like when that, and that's what you could tell a person who knows who they are just watching when the challenge comes. Watching when the challenge comes. You can't watch it when, like you said, super selling smoothly. Watch when that challenge comes, because I've seen a lot of people who are faith-filled, but when challenge comes, they just break down. You know,
Right,
just,
right.
so that means that the word you was fed never took root. You know, or your situation, if you've been through when it was going good, that stuff never really took root, because when it takes root, when all breakthrough, with check not coming in, or this ain't coming in, you're not getting this contract, because this, they ain't got cut. You could tell who you know what I'm saying, you could tell who took root, trust me.
And on that note,
All right.
subscribe, and remember that this platform has never been about a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.